So it wasn't too long ago that we had Sonic Frontiers unveiled to us through IGN First, where they gave us an idea as to how the game was going to play with some, interesting looking footage is what I'll say. And since then, to me, it seems like the internet has kind of had a turnaround with Sonic Frontiers, and that has to do with more and more gameplay and elements of it being shown. And even to the point now where I'm kind of coming around on this, and I wanted to talk about that here today. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave Plus channel, make sure you subscribe down below. So first of all, IGN First, the word is that Sega sent that footage to them and then they posted it up in this IGN First setup where they would come back every couple of days and show more footage and talk about different things. And I don't know if it was the order that they came up with or just the way that they were even playing the game. Again, this is Sega doing it and sending it to IGN. It just didn't seem that compelling. I mean, the idea of an open world Sonic game, sure, that could be fun to see how that turns out. But I don't know, the way they showed it, it was just one of those boring setups for the game thus far. Like, after this, we were getting more and more footage in things like Nintendo Direct and then at Gamescom, and it looked better every time they showed it. So it's weird that the first impression they went with was like the worst showing, because usually that's the most important thing you can do, because if you lose people with that first impression, you have to spend the next however long, if it's months or a year for the build up to the game, to try to win that audience back. But I will at least give Sega credit. I think the game has continued to look more and more interesting as we've gone along, gotten more video footage of just outright gameplay, people at Gamescom just playing the game behind closed doors, and then we're starting to see like recorded footage get out there of the title. And then we've heard more information around different islands that we'll go to, because that was one of the big questions was, okay, we have this fairly, people are saying generic Unreal Engine asset looking area that we were in for IGN First. Are there other zones or areas you can go to? And there are. We've seen like a big desert area and others described. So it sounds like we're going to have like this big open world hub area almost. And then there will also be different sections of that hub world divided with islands that will have different environments and themes to them. And I call them kind of hub worlds because then we start to hear more about these like cyberspace levels. That was, again, a weird thing because Sega was so secretive around this. We had Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, and they basically stopped people from doing any kind of footage for it. The reason we saw it initially is because someone was recording like something at Square Enix's booth, and in the background, you could see the Sonic Frontiers gameplay where someone was racing through it. And essentially, you go to these zones that are scattered throughout this hub world, and you'll basically go through a level that is very linear in design, like older Sonic games where you're going as fast as you can to the exit. And they're all based or even straight up pulled out of older Sonic games, which is kind of cool because then they bring it all together with this new open world Sonic game and then have very familiar areas that appear like they have different collectibles as you're running through and challenges that I assume will then play in to the open world area where you'll get upgrades and whatever currency they're giving out to Sonic with experience and stuff. I also noticed some of the gameplay went a little further in depth when it comes to some of Sonic's abilities in the world itself, like drawing circles. Sure, at its core, that sounds basic, but then they showed Sonic drawing spirals that would do different things, and some of the boss battles. The thing that gets me with the boss battles is the bosses themselves do look kind of generic, but then the way that Sonic's dealing with them looked interesting, where he's bouncing all around these different boundaries that they have to try to close you off from the open world when you're fighting a boss. But in that case, they had it play into the boss battle where Sonic was basically drawing out an entire design and just bouncing all over the place and hitting the boss. And then obviously we have these very large Shadow of the Colossus like enemies, and they showed a bit more with that. And when they first showed it off, it seemed very simplistic, but we've seen some more when it comes to that gameplay, and it does seem like, yeah, you're going to be Sonic trying to race up and find your way to the top of these larger enemies, and it seems they're going to be building around that with different mechanics. And then on top of that, we've seen some story elements to it through pre-rendered cutscenes that at least looks like there'll be some sort of story going through this. Whenever I think of Sonic games, I consider the gameplay above the story. And when we look at something that's going to be more free roaming and open world set up with progression systems and all of this, that's kind of what I'm looking more towards rather than the story itself. But still, you would want something to kind of pull the game along there. So as I see more and more of this game, I am getting more interested and more excited for it. It is coming out at a weird time, though. It's the same day as Skull and Bones, so they're just in trouble right off the bat. But it's like the day before God of War, and I'm like, of course it's right there, because my primary focus is going to be on God of War at that time, but I will still be picking up Sonic Frontiers and checking it out as much as I can alongside of God of War. At least I'll have like a 24-hour head start to try out Sonic Frontiers a bit before I then move into God of War and basically marathon that game. Now, success for this title, what would I consider successful, I'll say, for Sonic Frontiers? One, the sales aspect, although I think this game is going to sell even if it's poorly received, because the Sonic movie has done really well. And in fact, it's probably brought in more fans just because of the movie who have not really played any of these 3D Sonic games, and they might see it pop up and go, hey, I'll try the game out to see how it is without even looking at review scores. But just going off of Sonic Forces alone, if it can do better than Sonic Forces when it comes to Metacritic and with reviews and all of this, you know what? I'd consider that a win. They've had a hard time figuring it out with 3D Sonic games. This might be their big jumping off point with this open world style Sonic game. At least just the overall ambition and scope of the title, I think will put it above Sonic Forces, which is in like the 50s right now on Metacritic. The only way this could actually be worse than Sonic Forces is if the game is just outright broken. Like if it doesn't work, like you're falling through the level, it's super glitchy and buggy, then yeah, that's going to be a problem, and it may actually score lower then. But if things are at least workable, I could see this being up there with some of the better rated 3D Sonic games, which admittedly puts it in like the 70s, at least recent. If you go back to Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, that's much higher, but since then, it's been tough for Sega. So, hey, I'm interested in Sonic Frontiers. Let me know if you've kind of grown a bit more interested and excited even for this game as they've shown more and more of it with different events at Nintendo Directs, Gamescom, Summerfest, and let me know what you thought of the initial showing versus kind of where we are now with the most recent stuff. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.